Hey everybody, 8-Bit Josh here and welcome back to Aurora Park. So I'm pretty excited about this episode because we're actually finally starting a new area. So we pretty much completed the Main Street area. And so this area is called Smuggler's Den. And one of the reasons I'm pretty excited about getting this area started is because it's actually basically the entire idea of this park came from the idea that I have for this area, for Smuggler's Den. It actually started with that name, and so it kind of grew from there, the whole idea about doing this sort of sci-fi park. But sort of my idea about it is this. So the inspiration, I guess, is from a few places, but namely Fallout and the Fallout entire series, basically. So my kind of thoughts with this area is that it's sci-fi, kind of futuristic, but looks very run down. There's like pieces and parts of different things making the buildings. You'd have for instance that wall there, which I actually end up deleting that wall and replacing it with something else. But yeah, so it's like I kind of mess with this idea a little bit in the Main Street area, but where you have old buildings that look like they've sort of been repurposed and retrofitted, kind of with more sci-fi looking futuristic stuff on top of them. And then also kind of the idea with the whole Smuggler's Den thing, kind of taking a little bit of inspiration from Star Wars and kind of thinking smugglers, pirates, kind of Han Solo type characters that would go to all these seedy places, kind of like when you first see them in Mos Eisley and that kind of in the cantina. But mostly as far as the aesthetics, kind of taking from Fallout, in that bits and pieces of buildings are constructed by different things. Like for instance, this wall here, which is going to be the gate into Smuggler's Den, they're actually ship pieces. So there's going to be a lot of that in this area. Buildings that are instead of a wall, they have pieces of spaceships and wings and things like that. They'll be regular kind of brick structures, or probably won't use as much of the metal wall pieces that I did in the Main Street area. Again, just trying to make this area much more unique and different looking than the Main Street area. So you'll see, especially in this episode, and you'll see it more in future episodes in this series, but I actually used a lot of stuff from the adventure pack. And I talked about this in the last episode, the hotel episode. I never really got to mess around with the adventure pack DLC stuff because it came out right as I ended my last series. And then we kind of jumped right into Aurora Park, which is very sci-fi, and obviously, and the adventure pack DLC, at least at first, didn't really fit with the whole sci-fi theme, but with this section of the park, I think we'll be able to make it work pretty well, especially just with the whole, kind of rundown vibe, that we're going to be kind of going for here. So yeah, here just kind of messing with, this is the gate, and messing with the sign and different fonts, trying to figure out what would be the best look, I guess. And then I was like, oh, it'd be cool, maybe this sign was repurposed. It used to say, I don't know, I couldn't think of anything, but Smugglers something, and somebody somewhere decided to put another sign over top of it so that it says Smuggler's Den instead. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. You'll see it just kind of place it over top like it wasn't there, it wasn't part of the gate initially, and then somebody just put that other sign right on top. And then here I actually used the same kind of little tree thing that I made for the go-kart track. Well, inside the building, not actually part of the go-kart track. But this sort of like synthetic tree where the trunk of the tree are these pipes, and you have that little device there that's, I don't know, maybe pumping out oxygen. And then here are just the little curbs that you use to kind of deflect the guests around objects so they won't walk around it, because I figured they might kind of clip through some of that tree a little bit. So I just put those curbs around there to keep them from doing that. And then like here, yeah, you see like I totally just deleted that fence. I was like, I didn't really like it because I like the fence, but not right particularly here because it's just outside of Smuggler's Den, and I wanted to keep the sort of metal fence kind of vibe inside Smuggler's Den. So I just redid it, and then, kind of placing the sidewalks back around, and I had to adjust the gate a little bit, line it up with the sidewalk there. And then I'll probably go back and adjust the path a little bit because you see it kind of separates from the sidewalk. So I'll probably fix that, but you can see here I was just trying to cover it up with the like large flat snow piece, which it works okay for now, but like I said, I might just cover that up. Yeah, and then here just more detailing of this little fence out here, taking this big old piece of it's like a rocket ship engine, I guess that's what that's supposed to be, but I just flipped it upside down and it makes like a pretty cool little kind of tower put in the corner of a wall or something. Another thing you'll see I do quite a bit, and it doesn't look as good on these metal pieces because it's hard to kind of get that rusty look, but I found this really cool rust color, and so you'll see a lot of that kind of burnt orange color that I have going in that fence. You'll see a lot of that in Smuggler's Den, that color anyway, not necessarily on these metal pieces, because like I said, on these metal pieces it just looks kind of orange, it doesn't really look rusty. But then here, actually getting into Adventure Pack DLC stuff. These are actually just large block pieces that are really meant for like pyramids, I guess. But I thought it would be cool to make this is gonna actually just be, it's gonna be a water shop, basically, like a pip shop water where guests can go and just find themselves some water when they get thirsty. But yeah, again, just using more Adventure Pack stuff, trying to make it look different, like I said, from the Main Street area. Don't want it to look all the same, and because then it gets kind of bland and boring, and I don't know, maybe the Main Street area was already starting to get that way. But one of the things, it's like, yeah, the Main Street area, a lot of the buildings look similar, but that's on purpose because it's all one area and it's supposed to have a cohesive look to it. So while this section is definitely going to look different from like the Main Street area, and hopefully other areas of the park as we get to those, but again, this area is going to look fairly similar. All the buildings are going to have similar looks and themes. They may not all be this exact color scheme or even the exact block types, but as far as just getting that kind of rundown futuristic kind of vibe to the buildings, you'll see that with pretty much everything in this area. But yeah, I was pretty excited about using Adventure Pack stuff on this building here. It just kind of happened, me, like I've said this before, I have an idea in my head of what I want to do, but I don't always know at the beginning how I'm going to get to that point. So when I started building this, You know, I went for the I went for the metal wall pieces, and I went for the smooth concrete pieces, which looked okay, but it still looked too similar to kind of what we have going on in the Main Street area. So then I was like, you know what the hell, I'll dive into the Adventure Pack DLC stuff and see what we have. And it was sort of like, it was just kind of like a little I don't know, spark of inspiration, because I just sort of saw this building in my head and I was like, you know, this would look really cool, mixing this Adventure Pack wall pieces and these like little kind of triangle pieces with some of the sci-fi scenery. So, you know, that's what we have here. And then this is where I just start getting into the sci-fi, you know, kind of decals and stuff, taking the caution there and darkening the yellow, make it look a little bit more run down and, you know, like old. And I place these around these little slope pieces here. I don't know what you would call those, but yeah, again, just, you know, placing these, and I kind of just copy and paste them and put them all around. It helps. I think it gives it a cool little vibe with these little caution pieces here. I don't really know what you would be cautioning up there on top of the building. Maybe if you somehow were a person and you got out on top of there, but yeah, no. So here's a familiar piece that I use quite a bit. Again, I decorated, or I colored it with the same kind of tan color there, and then the same rust color, which, you know, you can see on the actual metal pieces, that rust color. It's a cool color. I like that, like deep kind of red, burnt orange kind of color. But it's hard to get. I really, really wanted these, you know, like the metal and stuff in this section to look rusted and old, but there really isn't anything like that in Planet Coaster so much. A little bit on the, like, when you saw me building the fence earlier on, that there's like kind of metal, I don't know, the flat metal pieces. Those are actually roof pieces that I put on the side of the walls there. But yeah, and then taking these same old lights, I've used these quite a bit, given that red color, kind of trying to keep with the old color scheme I got going on. The other thing I do, I make the lights yellow, kind of like a dark yellow, because I think when I think of like the rundown sci-fi kind of vibe, or I kind of think, you know, everything has that like creepy yellow, kind of industrial yellow glow to it. So that was sort of my thought behind making the lights here yellow. And while these particular light pieces, they don't give off like much of a yellow glow. I mean, they're definitely yellow lights, but they don't have much of a glow. But there are other lights in the game that actually give off like a nice glow. So as we start building out this section and we have a bunch of yellow lights everywhere, I think that'll look really cool. That help with the kind of rundown sci-fi vibe that we'll be doing with that. But yeah, so yeah, these lights are just placing them around everywhere, trying to get, even though like the back of the building won't be very visible, I try to do a little bit of decorating back there, especially because I don't know, if you play the game, you may notice that as each episode has gone on, the piece that we've built, I've actually uploaded to the Steam Workshop. So the other reason for, you know, trying to make sure that the backs of these buildings are, you know, at least decorated somewhat, maybe not as fully as like the fronts or the sides, but just because I place them on the workshop, and so I want the building to be as completed as possible. I don't want to put up half-built, structures and things like that, or things that somebody may download to put in their park, and they're like, oh, but I have to finish it, and I don't want that. And then here, I'm making a sign, and I actually got this idea. I get a lot of these ideas, from video games and movies, and a lot of times even just Google search, like try to find cool sci-fi looking things. But I this, like I said, this is a water, building. It's where people come to get their refreshments. So I thought it would be cool to make this kind of water sign that starts on one side of the building and kind of wraps around the top of it. So that's what that is. And then I, just taking these little, these are actually the mounts for the TV screens that are in the game, like the billboards and things. So I just put those underneath the sign, and I think that looks pretty cool. It looks pretty neat at night. And then here, again, I've used this sort of little trick with the signs previously, where you just kind of barely sink it into the wall, and you just get the text of the sign. You don't get the whole thing, and I think that looks really cool on this building as well. So it just says water, and kind of move it up, and then what did I write? I think here, yeah. So it just says water here, and then I place a little arrow sign as well. So it just that extra little touch. It's I think that's a cool little trick, like just sinking the signs into the walls so you only see the text. I think it works out pretty cool. So yeah, here we're just trying to figure out, so placing, this is again studio pack stuff. This is just like a sidewalk piece, but again, using that same trick where you just kind of just barely place it above the pathway where the guests are walking, so you can cover up where maybe where the path doesn't look too great, especially like right here as I'm trying to connect it from the pip shot water to the main path. So you just take these little pieces. It works well with roof pieces. Luckily these concrete like sidewalk pieces from the new Studios pack, they're not grid pieces, so I don't have to like separate them out and make a separate building out of them. But so I want to read your guys' comments from the last episode. Only 3 of them this time, but I always appreciate every single one, no matter if there's 3 or 1 or 10 or whatever. I always like them because I like hearing your guys' thoughts and giving you little shout outs in the videos. But Kevitron Milton, he just says good work, and to that, sir, I say thank you. Let him come in it. What's up, buddy? He says cosmic hotel looks pretty swish. Sort of reminds me of an old Art Deco cinema I used to work in, if they gave it a space sort of overhaul facelift. Also not sure if I'd seen it before, but love the waterfall by the restrooms. Works really well, that wrap up at the end. I thought about that too after I built it. I was like, it's very kind of 50s like cinema movie theater vibe to it. But yeah, the waterfall was I thought that was a pretty cool addition to the hotel. And then Stitch Up says, I like the hotel, champ. Good job. You seem to always remember lighting as you go, which is excellent, as it always feels included and never extra or added on. The outside of the hotel is so cool. Shame the footage was lost, but don't sweat the small stuff. Great job. Did you add hotel rooms? Yes, I did add hotel rooms. It is a functioning hotel. So thanks so much, everybody, for your input. Like I said, always say, if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And be sure to leave any comments, suggestions, feedback, because like I said, I like reading them on the videos, and hopefully you guys like hearing them and getting your thoughts heard and the in the videos. But yeah, so until next time, I am 8-Bit Josh, and thanks for watching. See ya.